Let's recall right from the get-go that our reason for doing the retreat and the meditations and so forth is not simply so that we'll feel better, so that we'll feel like we're approaching holiness, so that we can market ourselves as a wonderful Dharma practitioner. So that's not why we're here. But we're here to develop our potential, to realize the nature of reality and use that realization to cleanse our mind of all defilements. And we're doing that so that we will have the greatest compassion, the most refined wisdom, and the best skillful means to act for the benefit of all living beings. So right from the get-go, let's make that vast intention our motivation. And even if we're deliberately cultivating it and fabricating it now, as we practice more and more, it will become part of us until one day that bodhicitta intention will be spontaneous. So make that your motivation. So it's good to see many people here that I already know, that have been to the Abbey many times, and good to see new people as well. So welcome, everybody. So the difference in the two, the front generation is when we visualize Manjushri in the space in front of us. The self-generation is when we dissolve ourselves into emptiness and we appear as Manjushri ourselves. Okay? So in order to do the self-generation, one needs certain qualifications. But it's very beneficial either way you do the practice. Okay? And the practice is actually quite similar. It just depends when we're doing the mantra, whether you're seeing Manjushri in front and the light and realizations and so forth coming into you, or whether you have become Manjushri and you are invoking the realizations and so forth from outside of yourself. Okay, so Manjushri is very special deity, and he is the Buddha of wisdom, or sometimes called the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And all the Buddhas have the same realizations. They all have the same qualities, but different Buddhas have different specialities. Yeah, and the speciality is reflected in the physical form that they've taken. The Buddha's mind across the board for all the Buddhas is the same, their wisdom, their compassion, their skillful means, and so on. But since we can't communicate directly with an awakened one's being, mind, they appear in a physical form that we can relate to. And so that form, makes us think of their special qualities. Okay? So And it's reflected in the mantra too, the whole vibration of the mantra. So Manjushri is here, and we also have the cards. I hope everybody has them. Yeah. So Manjushri is, they say red yellow, which means orange, but I like more that golden color. Yeah. And so golden it's yellow with some orange in it. Yeah. I mean, a yellow with a little bit of red. It's not orange like an orange, but that golden color. Okay. And so it's like the sun, and the sun wakes us up. Yeah. And it's bright and it's invigorating. Manjushri's body is made of light, so it's not a flesh and blood body like this. Yeah, which means that Manjushri doesn't get sick. Yeah, he doesn't have allergies like the rest of us. Yeah, he doesn't get tired and need extra sleep. It's a body made of light. And so that's as we practice to become fully awakened Buddhists, we too are knowing that at Buddhahood we will have a body of light too. Yeah, this kind of body, it's what we got, but it's kind of a pain in the neck, isn't it? Yeah, and it's never comfortable. So as you're sitting here in the hall, trying to get comfortable, trying all the different shapes and hardness and softnesses of the various cushions, and trying this chair and that chair and different benches and moving around and trying to get comfortable, please know that you will never be comfortable in this body. Okay? So we just kind of accept that from the start. We try and be as comfortable and free of pain as we can when we're meditating, but the nature of the body is that it's never comfortable. Okay? Is it? I mean, what's your experience? Yeah, I have an itch there. I'm tired. I'm squirmy. You see? Yeah. Body is never satisfied. So we just kind of accept that, knowing at Buddhahood. Yeah, we'll get another one. But this body is what enables us to have a precious human life. And it's with a precious human life that we can then learn and practice the Dharma. So for a body in samsara, this is about as good as it gets. Yeah, Pure Land is better, but you're not quite in samsara at that point, although you're not really free from it either. But, so we take care of this body and we keep it clean, even though it's never going to be totally comfortable. And it's never going to look the way we want it to look. Yeah. And it's going to get old and sick and die. Right? So, in spite of those drawbacks, we take care of it because it's the basis of our precious human life. And that precious human life is what enables us to practice the Dharma and improve the state of our mind and ultimately attain Buddhahood. Okay? So we don't pamper our body. That's hard not to do. Yeah. So it's, so working with our body is actually part of our practice, too, And when we go for lunch, or any meal, to know that the food may not be exactly what we want. Yeah? So if you know that from the beginning, then hopefully you'll be more satisfied. And hopefully you can tune into the fact that in the last few days there's been a lot of people working very hard in the kitchen to prep the meals that you'll be eating, because this is more people than we usually have to eat at the Abbey. And so it's a bit of a stretch for us. So people have been working quite hard to get ready. But everything won't be to everybody's liking. Okay? I'm just warning you now. Because I know it won't be to my liking either. But dealing with the situations that we do not like is part of our Dharma practice. Yeah. Because if we always think, I can't practice until this is taken care of, and that situation is good, and this factor is conducive. If we're waiting until all the external things are perfect, then we will never do any practice. So dealing with all the things we don't like is part of our practice. Okay? So, because our life is filled with things we don't like, isn't it? Yeah? Do you have everything you like around you? If you did, you wouldn't be here. You would be there with everything you like. So the fact that you're here means that you don't have everything you like. Yeah. So it's interesting, because working with who we are now and our present situation, both internal and external, is our practice. Okay? So, even living together with people, not everybody will be exactly as you like. Okay? You may have a roommate who turns over in the middle of the night, or who coughs, or who snores, although we've tried to separate the snores. You will have people who do not close doors gently. Although I'm going to tell all of you right now, please close the doors gently. For sure. We're going to go out of buildings and somebody will just let the door close and it goes bang, So, and for sure, somebody will tell you or ask you to do something you don't want to do. Okay. Where are you going to go in this world where people are never going to ask you to do what you don't want to do? Yeah, like wash one more dish when you've already washed two. How we just, somebody didn't show up for their chore and they ask you to substitute, and it's like, well, I'm not on the list. Why should I go do it? Is our usual response. Instead of, oh, there's all these other sentient beings, and I guess somebody was tired or they forgot, but I have the energy, I can go substitute for that person and wash the dishes. Yeah. So you'll start to look and see your own responses to different things that happen here. And that's the value of having a retreat done in silence. So that's why we keep silence, okay? So one of the reasons is so that we have the time to really look at what our responses are, what our thoughts are, and look at what we want to say, but we hold back, and we keep our mouth closed and we watch. okay, why did I want to say that to somebody? Now, what was my motivation? Okay, so it was very, very effective for actually getting to know ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we are very good at picking out everybody else's faults. Yeah. We don't need any help to do that. In fact, we even pick out faults they don't have. That's how good we are at picking out faults. But in this retreat, our emphasis is not other people's faults. Okay? Yeah, and our emphasis is not controlling the environment so everybody only says and does what we want them to say and do. And that when we're on retreat and in our life as a Dharma practitioner, our emphasis is what's going on in here. Yeah. Is my mind in accord with reality? Or is my mind projecting things on other people, on the environment? Is my mind exaggerating someone's good qualities and getting attached? Or is my mind exaggerating somebody's bad qualities and getting angry? Okay. So what's happening in my mind? That's our focus, not what other people are doing. Okay. Of course, if somebody's ready, to climb to the top of the building and jump off, then out of compassion you intercede. Okay, we help each other if somebody's in danger. But, aside from that, we're studying ourselves and we're studying the Buddha's teachings and learning how to transform our minds into the meaning of the teachings. So not just learning the words of the teachings, but actually transforming our mind by practicing seeing things in a different way, practicing looking at other people and at situations in a different way. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when your mind comes up with complaints or picking faults or whatever, then just stop. Yeah. And think, okay, what is the antidote to that? Yeah. So if your body's uncomfortable, start to think, this is the nature of having a samsaric body. It could be more uncomfortable than it is. And anyway, I'm glad to have this body in the sense that it's the basis of my precious human life and gives me the opportunity to practice. Okay, so you transform your attitude. If you know the taking and giving meditation, many of you have been here before, you know that meditation, then think of all the other people here and everywhere else whose body is uncomfortable and take on their suffering and give them your happiness. If you're picking faults, if your mind is constantly critical of other people around you, or even you get critical of the turkeys, or you're critical of the bugs, or the cats, or, the deer, not everything is to your liking. And so, if we start projecting bad things or being like that, step back and say, is that really the reality of that person? Or am I projecting that quality? Am I projecting, or am I exaggerating the badness of a situation? Okay? Oh, they put too much chili on the strawberries. You know, I can't eat chili on strawberries. Who are these people doing this? Don't they know how to serve strawberries properly? And I'm going to suffer so much. So just, am I exaggerating the badness of chili on the strawberries? I think so. It's really not a national tragedy. And you can always go and wash the chili off the strawberries. Okay? So, and you can even use it as an analogy for your mind, the pure nature of your mind. Okay? So your mind, the pure nature, is like the strawberry. Your defilements are like the chili on top of it. Yeah, the chili has not entered into the nature of the strawberries. So the chili you can apply an opponent power and get rid of the chili and have the pure nature of the strawberry. In the same way that our defilements can be cleansed from our mind stream, leaving the pure nature of the mind. Okay? So you think of some Dharma antidote, to settle your mind down. Because if you don't do that, it's not the chili that's going to make you fume the rest of the retreat. It's your mind, that's going to make you fume and make you unhappy for the rest of the retreat. Okay? So this is how we practice Dharma in daily life. Like I said, it's not about learning the words. It's about learning how to put the meaning of the words into practice in our own lives and actually changing our minds. Okay, so let's go through the sadhana briefly. And then my idea is to go into the different parts of the sadhana in more depth as the days go on, and really teach more about refuge, more about bodhicitta, and so on. Okay? And it's very important to remember that these deity practices, that they are built upon all the rest of the teachings that we get. Okay? So the teachings on precious human life, on impermanence, on refuge, on karma, on the Four Truths, on bodhicitta, all the other teachings that we get can be included in the sadhana, in the practice text, if we're skillful. And to really understand the sadhana and the Manjushri practice, we have to receive the teachings on all the other Dharma aspects. So doing the sadhana practice is not just a thing of, boy, it's so nice to visualize Manjushri, to enhance our bodhicitta, to enhance our wisdom. Okay? So we don't do deity practices just to feel good. And I really emphasize that because I've noticed that sometimes people, in constructing their Dharma practice, they like to do the deity sadhanas, but they don't like to do the analytic meditations, where you actually think about a Dharma topic according to certain points and reach a conclusion. And if you don't do those analytic meditations, your practice is going to be very superficial, no matter how many mantra you recite. Okay? Because those analytic meditations, or we often call them checking meditations, are what really deepen our understanding of the Dharma. And then we apply that understanding in the deity meditation. Okay? So just at the very beginning, the first verse is about taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Well, wow. Doesn't that send us back to the basic teachings? Okay? So, we have to learn refuge. What are the three jewels? Yeah? How do they help us? Why are they reliable guides? This is important to understand, because if we don't, then we just say, oh, I take refuge in them. But then if somebody else comes along a little bit later and starts teaching you some other religion, you go, oh, well, that sounds really good. Yeah, I think I'll practice that. And like, boom, there you are. Yeah, practicing something else. So it's really important to understand, why are we Buddhists? Why are Buddha, Dharma, Sangha good guides? Yeah. Bodhicitta. So that's a whole chapter in the stages of the path. Yeah. For those of you who are following the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, Volume 4, which comes out in October, has a big section on refuge. Yeah. So I really recommend that. Then bodhicitta. Yeah. Refuge shows us why we're doing, or what practice we're doing, and who's our spiritual guide. And bodhicitta is, why are we doing that practice? Okay, we're doing it to become fully awakened for the benefit of sentient beings. Yeah. Again, in the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, bodhicitta is Volume 5. It's coming out a year from August. Then there's the meditation on emptiness. Now, actually, what we're supposed to do is recall our feeling of emptiness that we've had from doing the analytic meditations in a prior session. But many of us haven't done the analytic meditations on emptiness, so we don't have much feeling, so we can do them here. Yeah? And so really beginning to see that who we think of ourselves as being and how we think we exist is not actually who we are. Okay? So beginning to shed all the false conceptions about ourselves. So that sounds really good. Oh, I want to get rid of all these fast, wrong ideas of who I am. Okay. And you say, oh, that sounds good. Teach me how to do that. And then we start with shedding our identities. And then you go, I don't want to shed my identities. That's who I am. And if I am not that, then I don't know who I am. Yeah, so don't tell me to shed my identities. It's very interesting to see how our mind looks, yeah? So we have identities like, I'm a failure, I can't do anything right, nobody loves me. Okay. I want to get rid of those identities. But as soon as we start challenging those identities, something inside of us says, but that's who I am. I can't think of myself as lovable. I can't think of myself as capable. Yeah? And then we start realizing how deeply rooted these identities are. Or if we have the identity of being of a certain race, a certain ethnicity, a certain religion, a certain gender, a certain sexual orientation, a certain educational class, a certain, did I say nationality? All these identities that we have. And then we start talking about how they're just fabricated. And then something inside of us gets really shaky. But my identity is based on my experience. That's who I am. Yeah. But if we hold these identities really tight, how are we ever going to become Manjushri? Yeah? You think Manjushri goes, oh, I'm Manjushri. I'm rid of all my wrong identities. But I'm stupid. And I can't do anything right. Nobody loves me. Yeah? Are you going to become a Buddha and still have that kind of self-image? Yeah? Are you going to be Manjushri? There's Manjushri, and he's going, I was traumatized as a child. Yeah? I have PTSD. Yeah? I grew up in a family that was horrible. Yeah? You think Manjushri has that identity? Think about it. We hold those identities so dear. Yeah. Do you think Manjushri says, oh, I'm Tibetan? Actually, he's not Tibetan. He's Indian. You think he says, I'm Indian? Yeah. What makes you Indian? What makes you Tibetan? What makes you American or Canadian or whatever you are? Yeah. What makes you that? A piece of paper. That's all. Yeah. What makes us a certain nationality? The passport we have. It's a piece of paper. Aside from that, what's our nationality? Yeah. We're citizens of the earth. Actually, that too is too narrow. Yeah. We're one part of all sentient beings. That's more realistic. Okay? But Manjushri isn't a sentient being, so he says, I'm part of all the Buddhas. Okay? Are you getting what I'm talking about here? A little bit? Yeah. So Manjushri also has a body of light. Yeah. He's not going. He has, he is orange, but his hair is blue. But Manjushri is, he's going to stick out in a crowd. But he's completely okay with it. Yeah. I mean, look at him. Yeah. He's going to walk. You think he's going to walk down the street with a sword like this? It's very interesting because I've never, and I've done this practice since 1976, I've never thought of Manjushri's sword as a weapon. It just kind of, sometimes it hits me, a sword is a weapon, but I've never thought of it as a weapon. Yeah, because it's a wisdom sword that hews down suffering wherever its sprouts occur. Okay? It's a two-edged sword that cuts our wrong ideas about conventional truths and about ultimate truths. Okay? So I've never, thought of, if I visualize myself as Chenrezig, or as Manjushri, holding a weapon. Yeah. I could never visualize myself holding a gun. That I could never do. Yeah. But I wonder, if Buddha appeared today, maybe Yamantaka, who's Manjushri's wrathful force, would be holding an AK-47 or something. Could I imagine that? The weapons they had back then were, not like the ones we have now. Anyway, okay, so the meditation on emptiness is to help us reduce our hard and fast self-images and our hard and fast images of Manjushri. Okay, thinking that Manjushri is some personality. Okay, what we see as Manjushri, he's not a person with a personality. Yeah, there's a body and a mind, and on the basis of the body and mind, we give the name Manjushri. He happens to have a pure body and a pure mind, and we give the name Manjushri to that. But there's not some kind of real findable person there with a certain personality. Just as with us, there's no real findable person with a certain personality. Okay? So then, dissolving all these identities and false appearances, then we do the front generation. So we imagine Manjushri in the space in front. Yeah. So we're imagining Manjushri in a body of light. We're not imagining a statue. We're not imagining a two-dimensional tanka. Yeah? The statues and the tankas are to help us, but what we're trying to think of is a living being with a body made of light. Yeah? Whose nature is wisdom and compassion, who never looks at us with a critical, judgmental mind, who always has compassion, and who cherishes us actually more than we cherish ourselves. Okay? And so to learn to imagine Manjushri looking at us with acceptance and compassion. Yeah. And then sometimes you see like your mind is going, but I can't imagine a Buddha looking at me with acceptance and compassion. How can the Buddha accept who I am? I'm such a bad Buddhist. I don't do things correctly. Yeah? How can Manjushri accept me? I've got to be better and different and holy and do things right. Yeah? Yeah? I've got to follow all the rules exactly, even though I don't know what all of them are. Otherwise, I'm at fault, and how can Manjushri accept me and have compassion? I'm sure Manjushri put down his sword and his text, and he's looking at me like this with his hands on his hip. Yeah. He's Yamantaka. That's the wrathful form of Manjushri. Yeah, I can visualize that. Okay. So then you see, wow, why can't I imagine a holy being looking at me with total acceptance and compassion? What is blocking me from letting that in? Yeah? And then you try letting in someone's total acceptance and compassion. And see, let yourself experience that. So when we visualize Manjushri, his whole body is symbolic. I think it says that in here. It says a scriptural text symbolic of his seeing all things as they are. So on the lotus in his left hand, there's the Prajnaparamita text, which teaches, it teaches both conventional truths and ultimate truths, but especially emphasizing the ultimate nature, how things actually exist. Okay? So that's symbolizing Manjushri's omniscient mind. Yeah? His intelligence shines forth like the sun. Okay? So this crystal clear wisdom that sees things exactly as they are, unclouded by the two obscurations. Yeah. So the two obscurations, the afflictive obscurations, which are ignorance and afflictions and their seeds, and the cognitive obscurations, which are the latencies of the afflictions that prevent us from seeing both conventional and ultimate truth simultaneously. Yeah. And he's sitting in Vajra position. Yeah. That position with the legs like that is Vajra position. That's not, some people call it lotus. It's actually called Vajra. It's a Vajra posture. Okay? And that shows that all of the internal winds are controlled. The mind is controlled. And even though he's holding this sword, swords, I guess, are usually heavy, he's completely at ease. Yeah, maybe that's why I can never think of his sword as a weapon, because it's just, it's light, yeah? And he's totally at ease. Yeah. His shoulder doesn't hurt from holding the sword. Yeah. His knees don't hurt from sitting in the Vajra position. So his whole body is illustrative of a Buddha's realizations. So we take our body under the influence of afflictions and karma. That's why we have a flesh and blood body that gets old and sick and dies. Manjushri takes his body based on compassion and wisdom. That's why his body doesn't get old and sick and die. That's why his body is a reflection of the qualities of a fully awakened one. Okay. So his body is showing us what we want to go towards. Yeah. It's symbolic of the realizations in his mind. Okay. So the sword of wisdom hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear. Yeah. The brightness of his radiant body clears away the darkness of ignorance. Okay. He's adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha. So 32 of these are called the signs of a fully awakened one, and then there's 80 marks. If you study Precious Garland, we have copies here. It's in a book entitled Practical Ethics and Profound Emptiness. Yeah. Okay. Can't remember the names of the books I write. It has a whole section in there about the causes for the 32 signs of a Buddha. Okay. So again, the signs are showing mental qualities. Okay, then after that we invoke and absorb the wisdom beings. So here what we're doing is we're imagining light going out from the Manjushri we visualized, invoking all of the Manjushris from all of the Pure Lands. There isn't just one Manjushri. Any Buddha can appear as Manjushri. Yeah? So when we invoke all the Buddhas in the form of Manjushri, and then imagine them dissolving into the Manjushri we've visualized in front. The reason we do that, the invoking and absorbing of the wisdom beings, is because sometimes we visualize Manjushri, but we say to ourselves, oh, it's just our visualization, it's not really Manjushri. Whereas if we think that we are actually invoking and calling forth all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they absorb into our visualization, then it feels more like, oh, there's really is a Buddha sitting in front of me. Okay, then we do the Mandala Offering. So imagine offering the whole universe to Manjushri, together with the request that we be under his guidance. Yeah. Usually we offer the universe and everything beautiful in it to ourselves. Yeah. May I have everything good. May I have everything beautiful. It should all come to me. Here, yeah, we're seeing that all the samsaric objects we're so attached to really are not very valuable. So we imagine transforming them into the objects in a pure land and then offering that to Manjushri. Okay? And in that way, we are cutting our attachment to these ordinary objects. Okay? Then we praise Manjushri. Again, who do we usually praise? Ourselves, yeah. Usually, I should get all the praise. I don't like praising other people because if I praise them, that means they're good and then they might be better than me. And that can't be. So we're always going with other people, comparing ourselves to them. And either they're better than us, in which case we get jealous of them, or we're better than them, in which case we get arrogant towards them. Or if maybe we're equal, in which case we compete. Okay? So here in the praise, we're practicing seeing the good qualities of others. Because only when we can see others' good qualities do we have the chance to actually develop those qualities. If we can't see those good qualities modeled in somebody else, how in the world are we going to develop them? Okay? So the praises are quite beautiful, I think. Yeah. Then there's the meditation on the clear appearance of Manjushri. So here, what we're doing is we're practicing to develop concentration or serenity on the visualized image of Manjushri. Yeah. So if you've attended a concentration retreat like we have here over Labor Day, we usually recommend the breath or mostly the image of the Buddha. Here we're using the image of Manjushri. And so we apply all the techniques that we've learned for how to develop concentration, but our meditation object is the visualized image of Manjushri. And that has a very profound effect on our mind, not only of developing concentration, but of really holding that, if you visualize Manjushri clearly, then you always have the feeling that Manjushri is there with you. Okay? So we spend some time focusing on the visualized image of Manjushri, and then we do the mantra recitation. Okay? So the basic recitation is as described in that short paragraph under the mantra, where it says mantra recitation. Yeah. So at Manjushri's heart, there's a horizontal moon disk with the seed syllable D in the center, and then around the edge of the moon disk, going clockwise, are the syllables Omara Patsana. Yeah. And the syllables radiate light, which invoke all the wisdom of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and that dissolves into us. Yeah. And so if you want to do just a very simple meditation, you think that all the invokes all the wisdom of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the form of light, and then all that light falls into you and absorbs into you. Okay, filling your body, mind with light. Or you can do the visualizations of any of the 7 wisdoms, which we'll get into a little bit later. Okay, but they're described here. Yeah? But if you do any of them, what you're absorbing into you are Manjushris made of light, syllables made of light, swords, texts, whatever, they're all made of light. Okay? And it's a visualization, and you think of your body, don't think of your body as a body with solid substances. Okay? So don't think, okay, here's my body with my liver and my stomach and everything. And now all these texts are coming and they're trying to get into my body, but there's no room. Okay? Don't think like that. Yeah? Just let your body kind of be open. You can think of your own body as light, and then all this light from Manjushri in these different forms is just very easily absorbing into you. Okay? So you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, however many visualizations each session. You don't have to do all of them. You could, just focus on one. It's up to you. Okay? Or you can just do the simple one at the beginning of all the light coming. Yeah? And then at the end of the visualization, you imagine Manjushri's wisdom in the form of a syllable D, and that's on your tongue. And the sadhana says that it's lying on your tongue, but I remember hearing that it can also be standing up. Anybody else heard that? Yeah. Anyway, it could be lying down, with the top of the syllables facing the back of your mouth. And then you say D, Manjushri's seed syllable, D, 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 D. As fast as you take one breath, and then you do D, 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 until you run out of breath, imagining, okay, that immeasurable orange light rays radiate from the D in Manjushri's heart, and from all the Buddhas in space, and all of that absorbs into the D in your mouth, and then as soon as you run out of breath after your last D, then you swallow it, and you imagine swallowing the seed syllable and it coming to rest at your heart, radiating light. And then you do one of the analytic meditations, because the Manjushri visualization and all is very much a preparation for doing an analytic meditation. Yeah, because by doing these practices in which you're purifying your mind, then when you do an analytic meditation, it's easier for you to see things with wisdom and see them clearly and get a feeling for those different analytic meditations. So you may choose one of the Lamrim meditations. Yeah, we have outlines of them. The book. Do we have the hardcover book or the softcover book? In the hard now, that's called Guided Meditations on the Stages of the Path. They just reprinted it, and the title is Guided Buddhist Meditations. Yeah, but that has a whole outline in it. Or you can read, any of the Lamrim books. There's the first three volumes in His Holiness's series. There's also many, many books. And write your own outlines. You can think of the teachings that you've received here, especially this afternoon. We'll start on Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, and you can think of the major points in the teachings that you heard, and then you reflect on those points and specifically apply it to your own life. Okay, so that's a short meditation. Even you do just 10 or 15 minutes, or you may do a half an hour, however long you want to. Doing it after you've done all this visualization is, your mind is calmer and more receptive. Okay? Then after that, you think Manjushri comes to the top of your head, facing the way that you do. He dissolves into light, and all of that light then dissolves into you, and you think that your mind and Manjushri's mind become completely inseparable, and you think that your body becomes very clear and clean, like crystal. So not this heavy body, but totally, like a body of light. And then at the end, dedication of merit. Okay. So dissolving Manjushri into us at the end of the sadhana, it's also helping us to realize that at the beginning of it, we projected Manjushri out. Now we're dissolving Manjushri in. And that's illustrating that everything depends on the mind. There's not an objective reality out there that is separate from the mind. Okay, the mind and phenomena, there's a dependent relationship going on there. Okay? So we have time for a few questions, if you have any.
They had said between sessions to visualize all beings, I think, or as Manjushri and the retinue. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when you're walking around, you don't need to think, everybody's radiating, walking around with a sword and the text radiating light. But look at everybody as if they were a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. Okay? So the point of that is that it interferes with our critical judgmental mind. Because I don't know if you've noticed or if your mind is like my mind, but if it is, we're always looking at people and picking faults. Or making comments about their appearance, about their voice, about their personality. We always are somehow involved in judging. If we think of living beings as being like Manjushri, then we think of them in a much more positive light. Okay? So then, let's say somebody comes along and says, you were really looking forward to taking a nap after lunch, okay? And somebody comes and says, the person who is supposed to do dishes, they don't feel well, they're in bed right now, could you help with the lunch dishes? Okay. So, ordinary view, we look at that person like, why are they asking me? And who do they think they are? And, I just want to go take a nap before session. And that person's always picking on me anyway. Yeah. And look at the way they asked me. Yeah. They should have done 3 prostrations, gotten down and put their palms together and said, "Please, oh Holy One, will you help with the lunch dishes?" But they didn't do that. They just came up and said, "We need somebody to fill in with the lunch dishes. Can you do it?" They don't know how to speak to me. Okay, so instead of getting off on that trip and then, making up your mind that you just don't like that person because they're so rude and inconsiderate, you think, oh, it's Manjushri coming and requesting me for some help. And Manjushri cherishes sentient beings more than he cherishes himself. So if I get to wash the dishes of sentient beings, I'm washing the dishes of who my Manjushri cherishes. Yeah? This is a privilege I have. And Manjushri asked me to do it. I'll be in the kitchen in a minute. Okay? Then the mind is very happy. We wash the dishes. We finish. There's no leftover story that we're ruminating about. Okay? So, like that.
So I'm just curious I'm having a hard time visualizing the syllable D. Like what is it? Like I just look at like D-I-H-I.
Yeah, you can visualize the Roman letters.
Oh,
That's
okay.
fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people like to visualize the Tibetan syllable, but, it's fine to do the, just visualize the Roman syllables.
Okay, thank you.
I think I understand the idea of Manjushri being young and graceful, but I'm having a little bit of difficulty looking at the picture of Manjushri and seeing him as a 16-year-old. So I was wondering if you could say something about that.
16-year-olds are terrible, aren't they? Yeah, but maybe it's because at 16 you are almost omniscient. Yeah, as 16-year-olds, didn't we know everything? Yeah, we were much smarter than our parents at 16. I don't know, maybe that's why. But actually, I think it's because in ancient India, it was considered that you were kind of the most attractive when you were 16. Okay, and everything after that is downhill. Yeah. Actually, I find it actually very useful to think that, my looks and appearance are going downhill. Yeah. It's useful because that's the reality of it. Yeah. If I think, oh, I have to really keep myself so I look good, then I'm going to constantly be frustrated because my body is not getting younger and more beautiful. It's going downhill, And so I have to adjust my mind, so that if people like me, it's not because I look like a Vogue model. Yeah, it's going to be because of some sort of inner beauty, not external beauty. So I find it actually helpful in that way, Kind of, I'm not trying to look like, some sexy object. But I am trying to be beautiful in here. And if people are going to like me, it's going to be because of that. So, does that make it easier to think of him as 16? Yeah. So don't think he's in high school asking for the car keys and saying, "Get off my back, I'll come home whenever I feel like it."
Thank you, Venerable. Just a quick question to clarify. Is performance tantra Kriya tantra?
No. Kriya Tantra is the lowest class. Performance is the next one.
I see.
Okay. It's called Charya Tantra.
Thank you.
Or Karya. Yeah. Okay. Let's sit quietly for a minute. to absorb what we've learned, and then we'll dedicate the merit.